going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor podcast. We got my man, Steve Weatherford from Weatherford Fit, former Super Bowl champ from the New York Giants. What's going on, Steve?
Man, it's good to be here, dude. And you know what? I hate coming on somebody's podcast and telling them their business, but I'm not a former champion, bro. I'm gonna be a champion until I die.
Oh, man.
I'm a former NFL player, but I ain't a former champion. Nobody's taking that away from me. So with that being said, D, thanks for having me on, man. How is my audio?
You sound good. Yeah, you sound good. So let's dive into this a little bit. I mean, you took personal branding to a whole nother level as a professional athlete, and that's very, very impressive. Not a lot of folks have the focus and clarity that you do. I've been following you for some time now, man. We reconnected a couple months ago, and I've been doing my homework on you ever since. And I'm very, very impressed with your discipline. I know you just got back from Poland and you went through a really, we got to talk about that, man. That looked insane. But let's take a step back because I'm getting too excited here. For those folks that don't know who Steve Weatherford is, where can we find you online to learn more about you? I want to get that out of the way first.
Well, first, thanks for having me on the show. Thank you for that introduction. I would say the place that if you wanted to get to know me better quickly is just like anything else would probably be Instagram. But I think more kind of like deeper than the Instagram timeline is my Instagram story. And that's where you really just see my life. I mean, I don't really edit anything that I put on the timeline. I do have a little bit of an opportunity to kind of write the story in the captions. And so if anybody really wants to get to know me, man, go read a caption. The pictures and everything are great. But I really, really do my best to take advantage of those, 2,250 characters that they allow me to kind of speak my truth and share my experiences and my journey in that, not to segue this into anything else, but that's why I started my podcast as well, is because, man, there were things that I experienced that, I couldn't get across. I couldn't speak my truth fully in 140 characters on Twitter, or, now they give you 2,250 in the caption on Instagram. And I just didn't feel like I could really share really kind of like some things about myself that I wasn't necessarily proud of, but I knew that there were people who were living their life kind of dragging that baggage along with them, a lot of the shame and the guilt of maybe things that happened to you as a kid, or maybe things that you did as a kid, or even as adults. And there's a lot of men and women walking around with shame in relationships that maybe they're not faithful to. And so we just continue to create these things that hold us back from being our greatest self. And I'm not getting into religion and I'm not getting into woo-woo, but I'm just talking about, you were talking about disciplines. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the reason I have become, I guess if you would say, my opinion of myself is not that I'm like this ridiculously disciplined person, but from the outside looking in, yeah, man, I am really disciplined and I have a plan. But with that being said, I think that is the only way that you can truly let your gifts flourish, is if you create order in your life. And for me, in my family, having 5 kids, and I know I'm going all over the place. So if you guys
that's all right.
that I've got ADHD, and I'm just going to let this rip, because I normally, just for people out there, normally don't go on other people's podcasts just because I'm so busy. I barely have time to do my own. So I probably have way too much to say because I haven't been on another podcast in a while. So I really want to tie a bow on discipline, and then I want to get back to the agenda of what you think is going to best serve your audience, because that's why I'm here, truly. So in regards to discipline is, I was able to understand that discipline would lead to a very predictable result. And the way that I was able to discover that as a child is I had big dreams and big aspirations, and I was always, above average athletic. I would even say gifted athletically, but I was 108 pounds at 14 years old in high school. And I remember stealing a magazine from my dentist's office. And with that magazine, that became like my Bible. The things they said to eat, I ate. The supplements they told you to take, I would find ways. I would steal. I would like go into the football locker room at lunchtime and find ways to break in. I'm not kidding you, man. Break into dudes' lockers to try to get the supplements that this magazine told me that if I did this and I was consistent and I was disciplined, and dude, that became the Holy Bible for me at like 14 years old. And so with that tiny little document, there was probably only like 140 pages in that magazine. I was able to develop a healthy relationship with pain and a healthy relationship with structure and discipline. And I saw that take me from 108 pounds as a 14-year-old freshman in high school to when I walked across the stage 4.5 years later at graduation, dude, I was 225 pounds, and hand to God, never taken a steroid. And it was all, granted, I grew from 5'8" to 6'2". So I grew 6 inches, but I put on 117 pounds.
Yeah.
And like the rumor around my hometown in Terre Haute, Indiana was like that Steve was taking steroids, even to the point that my dad pulled me aside one time. And I was 17 years old. I'll never, ever, ever forget this, because my dad was very old school. He wasn't the type of dad that was like, oh, you're doing so good. I'm glad that you get up at 5 a.m. and go train by yourself. And then you go and train with the football team later on in the day. And then I see you running at night. I was completely obsessed, whatever this book said I did, right?
Mm.
So with all that being said, tell me the last thing that I was saying.
Discipline. Oh, people thought that you were on roids.
So I had this conversation with my dad. My dad pulled me aside. Thank you for putting me back on the track.
Yeah.
My dad said to me, he said, hey man, I just want you to know, he said, if you've got a problem, I want to get you help. I'm not mad at you. I love you so much. Wow. And he said, but if you're taking steroids, we need to get you some help. And I remember looking at my dad, and my first emotion that I felt in my heart was like extreme anger and just being like, are you kidding me? Like, you think I'm a cheater? Like all this grind that I'm doing, I thought I was like making my dad proud during all this time. But here I am feeling like really like almost kind of like disrespected. And then I thought to myself, once I sat in that for a minute, I'm like, that means even my dad, who knows me, who's known me since the moment I took my first breath, thinks that the amount of progress that happened in 4.5 years is not humanly possible, because he knows everything I'm doing. He knows everything I'm eating, because he has to buy it for me. You know what I mean? Like, he knows when I'm leaving the house to train. He knows I'm not out smoking cigarettes because I come home smelling like a foot. You know what I mean? I'm out there grinding, and he knows that. But even my dad, seeing all the behind the scenes behind that, still thinks that the progress that I've made was not like humanly possible. So once I really grasped that, I said, dang, there is really something to this discipline thing. But at that point in my life, I had only seen the fruit of discipline in my physical life and in my mindset, because you can't be disciplined with your body if you're not disciplined with your mind. So the point that I'm really trying to make is my relationship with pain and discipline and results and achievement like became very clear to me very, very soon, just because I had something in my hand, like this magazine. You know, I have this magazine in my hand, and I just have such full faith in this magazine that everything inside of this magazine will make me better. It will make me stronger. It will make me more flexible. It will help grow my confidence. It will help grow my body. It will help grow my athletic abilities. And I believe so much in those words inside of that magazine that I practiced them. And I became a disciple of muscle and fitness, as crazy as that sounds. But because of that, I saw fruit in my life. And with the knowledge of what's in that magazine, like, yes, you have to have a great program that works and makes scientific sense. But really the next level of that is, do you actually believe that that magazine and what it says inside of it is meant to make you better? And if you do it, do you believe, you have faith that it will work? But then the third piece of it, and this is where I believe so many of us fail in so many areas of our life when it comes to discipline. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I guess if I'm on a rant,
This is good.
is we, and this is not a shot at anybody, because I struggle with this in different areas of my life that are hard. Like for me, I fell in love with that because I'm like, oh, I can win more. But I want to make sure I tie a bow on this, is we struggle at the disciplines and at the mindsets. Because if you think about it, man, we have more information and more experts and more gurus and more certified this and that. I mean, think about the freaking like personal coaching life space. Oh my gosh, dude, if I see another like 26-year-old kid or like even 46-year-old dude trying to talk to people about living their best life. And like the funny thing is, and I don't want to get up on a tangent here because bring me back to discipline, but these dudes that are on the internet and these women that are on the internet that I get to know, like, you know, we see them at little networking parties and entrepreneur type things. Their life is a train wreck, bro. Like their life is a train wreck. They're drinking at dinner because they're so stressed out. And I'm not airing anybody's like dirty laundry. My point being is like when I want to take like the Muscle and Fitness magazine for me, right? I take that Muscle and Fitness magazine and because of lack of other resources, I chose to believe that this was like the thing for me. And I believed I had full faith in this, but after having it and having full faith that that would work, it's the disciplines behind that. And so there's never been more information. There's infobesity on the internet right now and on social media. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got the 5 ways to get this and the 3 ways to get that and 7 ways to change your intimacy. But those people don't necessarily have fruit in their life. And so that breaks people's trust. And so that little boy that I was when I was 14 years old, I had no other resource. So I chose to have full faith in that. And so I think maybe for a lot of your listeners, and I know for like a lot of my friends, that level of trust and faith, people just can't get to that because they've been burnt so many different times. And so they can't even get steps 1 and 2 because they can't find somebody that they believe in. They definitely can't have full faith in them. And then the third thing is, how are they going to be disciplined in that if you don't have the first 2 things? So my rant is over, but on discipline, man, if like get something that you believe in, have full faith that it can work. Have full faith that you can do it and it can work if you do it, and then fail forward in your disciplines. And I think over the course from 14 to being 37 years old, I am constantly reinventing my morning routine. I'm constantly reinventing the way that I go to sleep, but I am never remaining complacent where I am. And I've chosen, my son and myself and my family and my daughters have chosen to live a life of discomfort so we can experience a life and a connection to our purpose that really just supersedes any of the material things. And I know that sounds super woo-woo, and we can get into that if you'd like to, but from a culture standpoint, like this is not just how I live my life and achieve and grow businesses and write ideas on the back of the wall that you guys can see or win Super Bowls. No, never mind, my Super Bowl trophy's not over there. But my point being is, without those disciplines, I wouldn't have been able to uncover some of the gifts of what I believe God put inside of me. And I believe that's kind of like the direction that I am heading in, because there's so much information and so many programs out there for people, but really where we keep getting hung up and we keep stubbing our toe and then we just quit trying it's the disciplines. And people think that people they see on social media are just like, man, I wish I had your motivation. I'm like, dude, I don't have motivation. I seek motivation. I create motivation. I install motivation into my life, either with friends or my morning routine or the things that I allow to come into my ears. I protect myself, man, dude, because it's a freaking grimy world out there, man.
Yeah, man. You got to be the gatekeeper of what you allow in, and that's something Jim Rohn taught me. A couple years back when I was going through my shit, and I needed to work on my mindset before I could work on my business, which was helpful. Was super helpful. I'm fascinated by origin stories. I'm fascinated by folks at your frequency and vibration, right? Not to get too spiritual here, but I'm fascinated by origin story. So when did it come to fruition that Steve Weatherford was going to be this man that was going to live life full out? Was there a compelling event that happened in your life where you were like, this is it? This is where I'm going?
Uh, Dude, I put a thing on Instagram the other day. I wrote down, I'm going to pull it up, because it wasn't like a defining moment, like a field goal that I kicked or like a soccer goal that I made that I'm like, hey, this feels good. This feels right. Honestly, I think it was the first time I saw somebody else do it, like in a movie. And so I wrote down this Instagram caption, and I put like a little carousel of my 9 heroes, my childhood hero list. And what I wrote was, it all started with He-Man, the master of the universe, ultimate power, strength, and huge arms. He had a squad of super rad friends. Then my hero became Hulk Hogan, ultra American, super motivating, big energy. Then it became Karate Kid, Rocky Balboa. They had big hearts, undersized underdogs. Then it was Pistol Pete Maravich and Bruce Lee. They had supernatural focus, discipline, and surgical execution. Steve Prefontaine, the hardest worker in the room, in obsession pursuit to be the best ever. Then the mighty Keith Craft and Brian Bosworth, boldness, ultimate confidence, passionate, and fun. Then AC Slater, that's my guilty confession. Mario Lopez, I never really thought about it, but I have called my wife that I've been with for 18 years. We've been married for 13, but I call her mama, and I have since we've met. And I'm sure it's because AC Slater called Jesse Spano mama. The rest of the caption reads, like any little boy, I pretended a lot. I didn't realize at this point, but I wasn't just pretending to train as hard as Prefontaine when I first watched his VHS documentary. I wasn't make-believing I could tear a phone book in half in Jesus' name like Keith Craft, or make a bold declaration like Brian Bosworth and have the discipline of Bruce Lee to execute it. I've realized that the last 20 years of make-believing, I was disciplined, consistent, bold, and confident, motivating, and laser focused. That wasn't pretend at all. That was practice. And now I've become what inspired me. I'm writing this not to self-promote or build my brand. My God's got that. I'm sharing it because I've only lived one life, and this is the mindset. This mindset has shelf life. I know big goals are scary AF, but if you start small by replicating and practicing just small traits of your favorite superheroes, it no longer becomes about the big scary goal. It becomes a game you play with yourself with the intention of developing yourself into a greater superhero or a greater version of the superhero self you're chasing. I write all this to the kid out there with a big scary dream, for the divorced dad struggling with suicidal thoughts, for the successful high achiever that just isn't fulfilled. Why? When your mind is when speaking failure over your dreams, you ain't alone. You can still be your hero. The pen is in your hand. So to your question, like, what was my defining moment? Honestly, I think it's when I was witness to greatness. Like when I saw those guys, and it wasn't necessarily just the acts that they did, but the way that Bruce Lee was in complete control of his emotions. Like he did what he was committed to doing and not what he was feeling like. And that to me is like, that is the motto in our home, because, and I feel like it's the thing that derails all humans in general, and that is decision making. Now, granted, decision making stems from mindset, but let's just look at decision making in our family. The way we make decisions is like a pro and not like an amateur. So I'll describe to you the difference. Pros make decisions based upon commitments. Amateurs make decisions based upon feelings. So when you wake up in the morning, if you are an amateur at life, you make decisions based upon how you're feeling. So you'll do a body scan. You'll ask yourself, how does my spirit feel? Do I feel like I've been rested enough? Let me check my whoop band and my sleep recovery. And after I do all of the scans, I'll decide whether or not to hit the snooze or turn it off and get out of bed. Being a pro is actually way less exhausting, because when you live life with order, with commitments, when the alarm goes off, there is not a negotiation that goes on inside of your mind. You made that decision long ago when you made the commitment. So, and to circle it back to my family, that goes for emotions. And so if one of my 4 daughters gets into a fight with one of the other daughters, we preach in my home to make decisions and say words and do things based upon our commitment, not our feelings. So if you are feeling hurt, or you are feeling rejected, or you are feeling lonely, we are teaching our daughters to make, and my son, to make decisions based upon what they're committed to, what this family is committed to. And then that just allows them to practice, to continue as they grow older, to make decisions based upon commitments like a pro, because then you'll get pro level results. You'll get a pro level life. You'll get pro level relationships, because you are constantly practicing overcoming your emotions, not deadening them, over acknowledging them, overcoming them, and then making decisions based upon commitments.
Oof. This is so good, dude. Like,
Thanks, man.
this is so good. So I want to be respectful of your time. We have about 5 minutes left. You know, these folks.
I talk a lot. I'm sorry, man.
No, I love it. No, I love it. I mean, listen, there's so much in this episode that you were able to articulate in 25 minutes, which it would take people hours to try to get all that out, right? Which is important. The one thing that I've noticed with you recently is that, you know, or this could have been your whole life, but I noticed that you surround yourself with high energy, high frequency people. Ryan Stewman, our boy Lowe's, you know, I saw you guys went to Poland, and Lewis Howes was there, and a bunch of other people I didn't recognize. But you know, you lean into the discomfort, and you lean into surrounding yourself with people that are, they may be much better than you in certain areas, right? And you're not afraid of that. And I just want, with the 4 minutes we have left, for you to sort of go off on that, because I could preach it till I'm purple, but to hear somebody else say it too, how important this is in order to get to the life that you want to live and the business that you want, and so on and so forth. Like, you know.
Yeah, man, I definitely get it. And I'm just going to close my eyes, and I'm going to speak to you from my heart, from what, like, God has shown me in the last year, and that it has been, he has shown me just how valuable relationships are to me. My whole life, starting at 4 years old, I was born into a big family, loving family, but never felt connected to my family because I was just so different, dude. I have such an extreme level of ADHD. If you tell me not to do something, I'm going to go do it just to learn for myself. So my point is, I had teammates starting sports at 4 years old all the way up through 34 years old. So you have to think about it. For 30 years, God had delivered to me tribe. God had delivered to me a common purpose. God had delivered to me people on my team to help show me my weaknesses, to help show me my gaps, but help me to overcome them for the greater mission of winning and winning championships. And through that, I was able to learn the skills of using my greatest gift. And my greatest gift is to be able to help people see that they have more in them than what they realize. So to circle this all back around to the people that I surround myself with, God has been preparing me my entire life to, you know, get to the age of 34 and then kind of almost in a weird way go into the wilderness of not having teammates, and then realizing in the past year just how important tribe is to me. And then since having this like major breakthrough and speaking to my wife and realizing how important that is to me, for us, for our vision, for me to be able to operate at my highest. For my remaining years of my life, man, I will be spending my money tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 40 years from now on three simple things, because I know with unequivocally that this will fulfill me, this will impact people, and this will not allow me to leave a legacy, but to actually live a legacy. And that is learning, experiences, and relationships. And I was reminded of that by God on this trip to Poland, because I was just working so hard in 2019 to set my marriage and my family and my businesses up to where I could live the life that I wanted to live this year. But through that mix, and I know a lot of people will connect with this, I didn't make time for tribe. I didn't make time for family. I didn't make time for those early morning hikes. I wanted to make sure I took my kids to school on every single one of those opportunities, but that left a hole inside of me. So with that being said, I just want to encourage every single person that's listening to this, man, to look at the people that you follow on social media, the people that you're friends with, the people that you're not friends with, and just ask yourself, is this person helping me feel better or do better? And if they're not, clip them out. Don't feel bad about it, because we have one freaking life to live. And I think about it, man, I got 5 kids. My son is 12 years old. I have 6 more summers with him in my house. If I'm lucky, if he decides not to leave a summer early to go play college ball somewhere else, or maybe he'll be a WWE wrestler, or maybe he'll leave and graduate high school early and go to Harvard. I don't know. But my point being is I got 6 summers left with my son. I have 6 summers left to help create a king that can go out and create order in his own life and create disciplines in his own life. But it's my responsibility on this planet to create the ecosystem and the container for my son to continue to fail forward and practice the disciplines of a king, to fail forward and practice leadership, to fail forward in encouraging other people. Because encouraging a grown man like me when you're 12 years old is not a comfortable thing to do. He thinks I'm Superman, but I need encouragement too. So I ask him to practice with me. I don't know where I was going with that, but aside from the fact that we have one life to live, and the people that you allow around you are going to influence you indefinitely. So back to social media, that's where we consume the most. So we're really picky and selective about non-GMO and all organic food that we put into our bodies, and alkaline water that we drink and all that. But how alkaline are the people that we follow on social media? You know, how GMO and all organic are the podcasts that you allow to come into your brain and influence the way that you think? That's the most powerful thing that you have, man. You are allowing things to come into your brain that are going to surface in your life. So I'm really just challenging people to recalibrate their life, recalibrate who they're allowing in front of their face, who they're allowing into the mental diet of their life. Because you've heard people say you are what you eat. Dude, screw that, man. You are what you listen to. You are the conversations you have. You are the way that you show up for other people, because the way that you show up is going to attract that type of person in your life. So if you want givers, be giving. If you want motivators around you, be motivating. If you want generosity, if you want kindness, if you want empathy, be those things. If you want a blessing in your life, be a blessing to somebody else. That was probably longer than 4 minutes, though.
That was freaking amazing, dude. That was awesome. We got to leave it there, but I want to just recap for those folks that want to learn more about you and follow your journey and become motivated, or just get around somebody like you. Where can we learn and where can we follow you?
At Weatherford 5 on social media. That's Snapchat, that's Instagram, that's Twitter. It's Steve Weatherford on Facebook. But if you really want to like get into my life, get in my brain, join me on my journey, just like you, man, the most intimate place to get into what I'm doing, whether that's speaking, extreme events like what we did in Poland. I'm actually recreating that. I'm already sold out for it, but I did want to mention that it's pretty cool that I'm doing that in Park City, Utah. I'm going to do another event coming up pretty soon. So my point is, man, plug into my social, but definitely plug into my podcast, because that's where I have these conversations. When I do these, I don't have like a pretty light to make me look nice or anything. I go in my sauna with freaking headphones. I sweat all over myself. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it makes complete sense and I blow people's mind. And sometimes after the podcast, there's like, people have like a whole bunch of questions via the DM. So my point being is, man, how I appear is truly how I am. I do my best to be very strategic in the way that I live my life and the people I allow around me. So I just wanted to honor you, because before I got a request to come on your show, man, there were several guys like Bedros Keuilian and Lo Silva, because I typically ask those guys, hey, is this a good dude? Is this worth me sharing my gifts with? And they all had great things to say about you. So thank you for having me on my show. And I would love to serve any of your people on my podcast as well. So thank you, man.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I really appreciate that. And that really means a lot to me. It really does. Please give those folks my love. And I just want to make sure that people know exactly what the podcast name is.
Steve Weatherford, just type it in. Real creative, I know. But I was trying to come up with all these like really cool, like Veritas. Like, listen, dude, like, you're just going to confuse people. They know your name. You played football. That's already kind of like a baby famous name. Just use your name. So sorry to disappoint anybody that thought I was going to have like the Mindset Mastery podcast. No, it's the Steve Weatherford Show. High performance tactics for a high performance life.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And if there's anything else you want to plug, anything else that you got coming up that you want, 65,000 people to hear this month.
You know what? One thing that I have started doing. Do you have a lot of downloads per month?
65,000.
Oh man. Well, we'll see. All right, dude. This is what I'll do. So I just joined this text message app that's called Community.
Yes.
And so what I'm doing, if you guys have a question about this or a question about any of the events that I'm doing this year, or about possibly having me speak at one of your events, because I'm doing some speaking this year as well, I answer all of these text messages. And if it's not me, it's my wife. So this is not a bot. But if you want, text me, and don't text me a ridiculously long question. Be really tight with it, because I don't want to take 5 minutes to read this. So be tight with your question. 949-763-5934. Text me. I'll have a conversation. I'll be concise. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on the show.
Steve, thanks again, man. I really, really, really enjoyed this episode. Guys, you heard it from the man himself. Get out there and implement what he said today. And I can promise you, you're going to level up your standards and scale your expertise. So have an amazing day, guys. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.